Rescue, Volume 2, Chapter 7. The Book of Daniel, Chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And at the time... Oops. Got to start again. So much for the dramatic effect. I have trouble reading, so you'll have to bear with me. Daniel 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Close quotes. At what time shall Michael the archangel stand up? At the time mentioned in verse 45 of Daniel 11, when the Antichrist shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. That's the time that the Antichrist begins to come to his end. Let me swig some of this water here. I should have poured more in this cup. Oh. At that point, when the abomination of desolation is placed, which was also mentioned in verse 31 of Daniel 11, who stands up? Michael, one of the archangels. Actually, it may be pronounced Mishael, but we call it Michael. Okay, Michael, one of the archangels. And then Daniel 12:1 talks about a time of trouble, a time of great tribulation, Matthew 24:15 and 21. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. ... Verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. Close quotes. The archangel Michael stands up for the children of thy people. The people of Daniel are the children of Abraham by faith. Those are the people who are saved, who have Jesus in their hearts. For they are written in the book of life. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Except a man be born again, he shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So you don't get in by fleshly heritage. Daniel 12:2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. That is the first resurrection mentioned there. Notice I emphasized the first resurrection. We'll study this later on in Revelation and First and Second Thessalonians. It's prophesied in other places in the Bible. There are actually two resurrections. The first is the resurrection of the saints, the saved. The next one after that is the resurrection of all other people to be judged by God. Those two resurrections are 1,000 years apart. The saints shall be resurrected to rule with Christ during his 1,000-year rule here on earth. As you see from the scriptures, it says, open quotes, ... Many of them that sleep in the dust, ... shall awake. That is the first resurrection. The second resurrection will be all the rest of the people that ever existed. In the first resurrection of the saved, some will be resurrected to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. All are saved by grace. But those who were ashamed of God and ashamed of Jesus and ashamed to witness, to confess Christ in their life. I read it wrong. It's been like 30 years since I wrote this, I think. Anyway, let me repeat that again. All are saved by grace. But those who were ashamed of God and ashamed of Jesus and ashamed to witness, to confess Christ in this life, of those same people shall the Son of Man, Jesus, be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Some will be commended for the terrific job they did, witnessing and winning souls, helping others to get saved. Others will be ashamed for eternity for being cowards, traitors, backsliders, who sold their birthright, their perfect heritage, for a mess of pottage in this physical world. They'll be saved, but it's going to be close. Daniel 12, verses 3 and 4. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars, forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. That book was sealed. The message was only for the people who would be around at the time when all of this will come to pass. Daniel 12, 5 through 7. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and sware by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time and times and an half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Close quotes. As we now know, the word time, quote-unquote, used there means year. So a time is 1 year. 1 year equals, quote-unquote, time, E at the end. Then 2 years, plural, equals times, T-I-M-E-S, with an S at the end, plural. Then 1/2 year equals an half. So altogether, there's 3.5 years according to the old 360-day per year lunar calendar of the Jews. So he's saying 3.5 years. The holy people are the saved souls, and God is going to have to allow the Antichrist for the period of the Great Tribulation, or 3.5 years, to destroy the power of the saved souls here on earth. You who are saved, you didn't know that you had power on earth, did you? If you only knew. If you only knew, it would have been a better place. That's why the enemy fights true Christians so much. But at that point, the saved and holy people will no longer have any power or influence on the physical spheres of earthly communities during the 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. They will have fled into the wilderness, and many of them will have been executed and killed and have gone home to be with Jesus. That's one reason why the tribulation will be the worst period of world history. The positive effect of the world's communities. Whoops, I read it wrong. Let me drink a little bit of water and try this paragraph again. Hang on. Almost drained my cup. Okay. Now this is important, so you'll have to really try to get this. Really make a real extra effort on this one. That's one reason why the tribulation will be the worst period of world history. The positive effect the world's communities received as a result of saved Christians' prayers will no longer be there. The employment once enjoyed by those who worked for saved Christian employers and captains of industry will no longer be there. The honest, saved workers who were such a blessing because of their cheerfulness and integrity will no longer be there. The myriad of good scientific breakthroughs and positive social benefits and professional quality that has improved the standard of living of the earth for over nearly 2,000 years because of Christians in those fields will no longer be there. Most of all, the preaching of the message of love, hope, joy, and salvation will no longer be there, including the beautiful art, music, poetry, and profound teachings of the Christians. They formed the backbone of classical art, literature, and music. Like the story of the man who killed the goose that laid the golden eggs, they will have booted out the one thing that really made the modern world prosperous, Jesus Christ and his people. But only long enough for them to wreak enough havoc to almost destroy all life. Then God steps in and says, "No more." They will have made a complete madhouse, a hell on earth, of what was once the beautiful creation of God. During that 3.5-year period, there will be, at the point that the abomination of desolation is placed, no more Christian activities or Christian organizations of any type whatsoever, saved or unsaved. It will all be completely destroyed because the Antichrist will scatter the power of the holy people And God will, for that time, have to allow it. Daniel 12, verses 8 and 9. And I heard, but I understood not. And then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. As great and wise as the prophet of Daniel was, he did not need to know these things. These things are for you to know, upon whom the ends of the world have come. Great scholars of history from that time forward have pondered these things and have never been able to understand this book of Daniel. But if you have the Holy Spirit and are in prayer and in the Spirit and consider diligently these things, you will understand them, because it pertains to you now. And you are among those who need to know. You are among those who need to know. Daniel 12, 10 and 11. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Close quotes. Well, that's something new, huh? The quantity of the days mentioned here is longer than 3.5 years, or 1,260 days. All of a sudden, verse 11 gives us the sum of 1,290 days. What does that mean? Where does that number fit in? Because now this verse mentions another 30 days. Actually, what he's done here is that he has introduced a new time period of 30 days, or 1 month. Subtract 1,260 from the new figure, 1,290, and you've got 30 days. Well, what has been the main concern of the first time given? What is the main reason? The principal reason of the first time of 1,260 days given in advance in these scriptures was to prepare the saints of God who will be on the earth at that time, that they can know how long the time will be from the transgression of desolation until the resurrection of the saints, the quote-unquote rapture. That has been one of the principal messages in this book of Daniel, in which people are not really given more than they need to know. But the 3.5 years, the 1,260 days, concerns us who are the saved, because that is exactly how long we have until we are raptured or resurrected in the first resurrection, the resurrection of the saints, and taken out of this sorry world, thank God. And for us, that's going to be the end of all that persecution. It will be the end of the Great Tribulation. You will learn from the later studies in this volume of Rescue, Volume 2. When we look at the book of Revelation, the precision of these events, including how God deals with the Antichrist once we're gone. Daniel 12, verse 12. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,300 and 5 and 30 days, close quotes. You see here another period of time. That makes 3 periods of time mentioned here in Daniel 12, each measuring from the point in time when the abomination of desolation is being placed. The first time period ends with the rapture of the saints, 1,260 days afterwards. And that's at the time of the second coming of Jesus. Then there is that second time period, which includes that extra month, and that is a total of 1,290 days. And then this third time measurement. Perhaps it's a message in the mercy of God to those who didn't get saved and were not raptured because they didn't have Jesus in their hearts. But nevertheless, for some reason, they have received God's mercy, and He wants to bless them. The third time period, 1,335 days, is 45 days longer than the second time measurement. We'll study a little more about this later, but as for what these last 2 time periods mean, we can only speculate. We can only speculate. There have been many speculations already by Bible scholars. One thing we do know, that there will be people on the earth who are blessed of God because they will survive the events that happen after the departure of the saved souls, the saints, in that rapture or resurrection of the saints. Following our resurrection or rapture of the saints, there will be a period of time called the wrath of God, in which God deals with the Antichrist and his people. Although we know from the scriptures that there will be a period of time known in the book of Revelation as, whoops, I said although, didn't I? I meant also. Let me swig some water here and try again. Okay, let's take it from the top. Also, we know from the scriptures that there will be a period of time known in the book of Revelation as the Battle of Armageddon. And we know that none of the Antichrist's people will survive that battle. They, along with the Antichrist himself and his false prophet, will be totally eliminated. But we do know that among the common people there will be survivors, not of any of the subjects of the Antichrist, but of the remaining world's peoples. There will be many unsaved who, nevertheless, will have the blessing of God, and they will be the ones who survive and come to the end of the 1,335 days. We'll be studying more about this later in our studies of the book of Revelation, here in this second volume of Rescue, in which we learn how one man, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, rescues the entire earth from certain destruction. He rescues the entire earth from certain destruction. But as to what these 2 time periods mean exactly, no one knows. We can only speculate for now. Actually, the end time, quote unquote, really began in the days of Jesus on earth. And when Jesus hung on the cross and said, "It is finished," that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. But the final culmination will be during that last 7-year period of the Antichrist, especially the last half of that 7-year period, the Great Tribulation, ending with the rapture of the saints. Then, after that, those other two time periods of Daniel 11 and 12 will follow. After that period that follows our resurrection, God will be dealing with the Antichrist and his people. And that will be a time period known as the wrath of God. And there will be a period when the battle of Armageddon will be fought. So that will be another time slot. That battle may actually take quite a while. But, as I said, no one really knows. At this point, no one really knows what these two time periods are specifically. Since this is the last chapter in the book of Daniel, and that's all we've got on it, all we can do is speculate. But we'll be studying more about the wrath of God time period and the battle of Armageddon time period later on in this volume, Rescue Volume 2.